So we are excited to be joined by trans leader Andrea. Is it Brianna or Brianna?
You got it. You got it, Brianna. It's you can't. I'm not the type of Andrea Brianna or Andrea Brianna who minds. I like them both. I was born in Mexico City, so with the Spanish accent, it's Andrea Brianna. But
Oh, see,
I
that's
grew
the.
up in the U.S., so you can be Andrea Brianna with me, and I like that. Love that too.
I love it. So we have her here, the CEO and founder of RebelMouse, to dive in further into this important topic. How are you today? Good to see you.
Thank you. I'm very good. It's a beautiful day in Park Slope, Brooklyn, where I am dialing in from.
Look at all us New Yorkers today. Ben's in New York, he's in Manhattan, I'm in Queens, you're in Brooklyn. We got all three boroughs. Look at us.
Forget about it.
Forget about it. But trying to get from one borough to the other, forget about it. You don't have a G train coming up, but I digress. I digress.
We city.
So yeah, we're city folk. We're gonna be boring everybody. Now let's talk about the weather because that's really exciting. Okay, can you start by telling us a little bit about yourself and also how Rebel Mouse approaches remote work? And also, may I say, Rebel Mouse is my favorite company name ever now.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
So RebelMouse is a company. We build really fancy, expensive websites that perform really well. A lot of trans people work in tech. Right now, it's a little bit hard in tech in general. The tech economy is bad. We're going something like a dot-com bust these days, like well, layoffs, layoffs, layoffs in tech. So um, it's definitely a challenging time for trans people because so many of us work in tech as well. So you want a lot of abundance, not a lot of scarcity. But
Mm.
our company builds really wonderful, high traffic and high value websites. I was CTO of Huffington Post before starting it. And we have a very, as you could imagine, a company with a visibly, openly, publicly trans person leading it. We're a very different kind of culture, especially when it comes to offices and remote. And so I have always believed in remote.
Mm.
I started building remote teams in 1998. I know I look 23 and I'd love to be told that, but it's been a little while. I've been in the industry. And so I always loved distributed work.
Mm.
I specifically at Rebel Mouse, we don't use the word remote. I think the word remote actually contains the seeds of all the traps and failures.
Mm.
Distributed is what's important to me. And without talking about trans people for a second, our culture, a nice thing when you think about how we deal with it. One, we don't have an office. I actually believe you can't go halfway in a good way. If you have an office and your CEO and your management team shows up to it, there's no other place you can actually contribute to the company in a material way in 99% of companies. So I'd suggest if you do like distributed work, you do like to avoid offices, that you find a company that has no office to work for. Otherwise, you're going to not be a distributed part of the workforce. You're going to be a remote. And remote is remote. It sounds like you're about to get on a raft and lose cell connection. And it certainly doesn't sound like you're about to get promotion to the management team or invited to a board meeting. You're
Mm.
remote. So, one piece is very important to us when we think about this culture is first the right word. You should be able to rise up. The reason I've built distributed teams since so long ago is because I think unconscious discrimination prevents people who deserve it from rising up the ranks. And the easiest
Mm.
way to understand it is that in the remote offshoring work of technology, people say, well, I want a CSS developer that's cheap. I want them to be in Brazil or India or da da da. And so I hire them there. And what happens is that when they find someone and they're really good at CSS, if they hire, but I noticed a behavior, unconscious behavior, everybody who did this was completely unaware of their behavior.
Mm.
What they would do is if they hire in the office in person, they meet this person and they're good at CSS. it's an American hire. We're in America, an American company, and so there's an American hire. They're usually like, "Where'd you go to school?" and like, where are you from? And they start visualizing how this person's story comes, and they start doing something that's important with a relationship with a new employee. They start helping them visualize how this is the starting point. We hired you because you're good at CSS. I'm sure you're going to nail it. We'd really love you to be thinking about SEO or UX or something that is the next level up. And so you start painting a path of growth from the beginning and early on when it's someone who you hired who went to a university name you recognize, looks like you, talks like you. You start building their future. For the CSS developer that you hired in Bangladesh, they never, ever, ever do that. That person has an opportunity to be a CSS developer at your company for life. And nothing they do could help them go up because they're a remote CSS worker. The way we think about it is distributed, and we look for people who are really passionate about the same things we're passionate about. And with no limit on geography, it turns out to be way easier because we can find you wherever you are. And then we look for people who want to grow. And I think outside of trans, though, it'll be very easy to see someone on my management team, so our chief creative officer, Sandra Orlick, started as an account manager, a junior account manager, relatively low paying position, and a very entry level thing. Sandra quickly proved she's somewhat young. She's been here 8 years, so I got to stop doing the young at some point. Like, we've been working together a long time now. Oh my God, how we know each other. She's just a brilliant, brilliant person. I'm so very lucky to work with her. It would have been easy for any company to miss the junior account manager who is based in Serbia, who also never puts her camera on. And we don't talk enough about distributed work or remote, to use the wrong name that is more commonly used, and the camera on or off options. I loved that she didn't put the camera on because I have always felt that for work like technology, I don't care what your accent is. I shouldn't care what you look like. I should care what you think. I should care not what you say in terms of how you said it and was it grammatically correct, but what you meant.
Mm-hmm.
And so in our company, Sandra had the ability to quickly prove that she was the smartest person in any room and to be recognized for it. And we have big public company clients, and she joins and she does not turn her camera on. And they fucking love her. They adore her. At first, they're like, who's this one who won't put her camera on?
Mm-hmm.
But give her a moment, give her 2 weeks of work. You just start to want to send her flowers. You're like, you make my life better. You're so smart. Thank you so much. So I think for trans people, the ability to have more companies have that type of culture is a dream. The amount of stories we have of just waking up, and some days you just are dysphoric. You just look in the mirror and like, oh, I'm a non-passable trans person. I'm more commonly misgendered than correctly gendered. There are days where turning off the camera is a little bit of mental health. Like, can you just please talk to me and not look at me today? And I wish there was more tolerance for that. I find that actually most company cultures that that support office-less cultures use the word remote and demand camera on. It's an interesting balance because there's some people in our company for whom having camera on for themselves is really important. They like to have it on. And I really do try personally to reciprocate with them on it. So I don't want us to have a camera off culture, but I want us, and I'm proud that we have a camera optional culture. You shouldn't be penalized if you're not in the mood to turn your camera on. And I know there's job functions. So even as good as we are at this stuff, a new sales meeting, I need the salesperson to put the camera on. It sucks, but I need to. We got to close deals, and you got to come off camera and create some feeling of trust because we don't travel to shake your hand. So I think you got to put the image up. So I think there are some roles where you say, like, look, it has to be. I'm so sorry. But for me, it's with cringe and pain that I have to ask that, or I have to expect that on the sales thing, because really it should have been all about the ideas. And that's why I don't do it for them once they've signed and they meet Sandra, because I know they're going to send me an email within weeks saying how Sandra's the best person they've ever met. Anyway, so just give them a little moment.
Yeah. A lot of
I
love
think
for
that's
Sandra
the
today on the
longest.
call.
Yeah, there always is. Like, she's a nice example too when it comes to this, because she's just so like committed to that camera off piece. We've seen her
Yeah.
over 8 years, I think a total of 3 minutes. So,
Fantastic.
but you know, we have that it definitely, and that's our culture, is like we want to make it around like the ideas, not how we look. You know, the feelings we leave each other with our thoughts, not with how we look again. And then I think for me, I feel like that for trans people then becomes really fun, because then some days you are feeling cute, your hair came down just freaking right, and your nails look nice, and you kind of do want to come on camera. Then remote is so wonderful because you can flip in and out of that feeling and decide, like, I felt good in the morning, but by now I'm like, oh, I don't know. And so I think that distributed work with no office and camera optional would be the most ideal environment for most humans. And it's particularly wonderful for trans people.
Yeah. It really, I love hearing about the culture in which it's about the ideas and also just giving people the option. So what I'm hearing is this element of psychological safety where you don't have to be performative in one aspect of like putting on a happy face. Maybe when you're just like any of those symptoms that you were describing, it's just like I can still work today, but if I also have to like make face and work, I'm not going to be able to get through my day.
Yeah, and I'm so glad you said that, because it does come with that other piece. That's the part we're trying to be honest with each other about, and that turning the camera off can be a form of being honest about your mood.
Mm-hmm.
We do encourage the rest, and I think the only way to actually do it is that as a leader, you have to practice it yourself, which is that when I get in a call, I have to say, hey, you know, just so you know, like, I didn't sleep well last night. So in this meeting, if I sound kind of like unexcited about the idea or something, it's totally not you, okay? I'm just struggling a little bit today. So we'll get through it. I'm fine. Like, need you to feel sorry for me. We're going to be fine, but I'm tired, or I want to work through it, but God, I have a headache. You know, that kind of be upfront with it
Mm-hmm.
is very helpful. And the other thing is that we find that it's very important to help empower everyone in the company to, I am trying to figure out the right way to this. I think I normally talk about it a different way. Um, your personal life, what I say in all hands, I try to repeat every all hands, is that the company is not more important than your life.
Mm-hmm.
And for you to do the best job here possible, you have to prioritize and center your personal life. So what that means is, like, usually CEOs who have mojo and power can go through meeting scheduling and be like, sorry, that's when I do my bar class. And oh, that's when I pick up my kids. Can we find another time? It's almost a flex without realizing it's an unconscious
Mm-hmm.
flex. What we don't realize, because this is all unconscious, is that the junior account manager, the junior person, does not feel safe to say the same thing. They find out that the meeting has been scheduled right when they pick up their kids, or right when they have a doctor's appointment, or right at the same time. Like, great, the new recurring team meeting is exactly when I was picking up my daughter every day.
Mm-hmm.
And they just have to swallow it, be quiet about it, and say nothing. What we talk about is that ability to say, can we find a new time? Because that's the time I pick up my kid. It's not, you don't have to fake it. You don't have to lie. You don't have to be, I have another meeting there. We, business life tends to feel like personal life is in the way. It's a problem. Keep your personal life out of it. And I think it was like Marissa Mayer who was talking about how flexibility is so important. And she had a lovely story about one of her employees that you could ask him every weekend to work through the weekend, and he totally would. He's just like that type of person.
Mm.
Just never hesitates. But Tuesday night is his poker night. And if you even one Tuesday, tell him, sorry, but you can't do poker night, he will leave that Wednesday morning. We all have different things that matter to us, and
Right.
they're very personal. And so I think the flexibility around that stuff is very important. For trans people, it can be oddly personal and very vulnerable. Like, I got laser, like when we get trans feminine people get laser on the face, first it's like Guantanamo Bay. I can't tell you the level of pain. Oh my God, I have low pain tolerance. So
Mm.
trying to do a meeting with me after is a very bad idea. But then I've seen so much dysphoria from trans people. Depending on where you are with the stage, we go through this terrible, terrible couple days where you cannot shave the hair
Mm.
because it's too painful and it's going to cause damage to your skin. So, as an example of like a moment where you want to be like, look, I can come to that meeting, but I want to have my camera on, is like you have to come with facial hair when you're trans feminine. I saw someone on Twitter, I was connected to a friend that was like the heartbreak of their year that day. It was,
Mm.
I try not to, I'll keep my shit together, but those types of things are important for companies to realize, not just for trans people, but for the people who are moms and dads and who care about being part of their family, that his personal life is important to center. And then you can do great work. So, um, anyway, that I think is an important part about being safe for everyone. I think one theme that I found is if you can make your company safe for trans people, I think that's one reason that I, since coming out of the closet, living in Brooklyn and stuff, I feel like in the closet, I had some connection to people of color, but out of the closet, they're like, look, that bitch gave up her privilege. You know, like that probably is harder than my own, like doing that unpassively trans feminine. That must be hard. And there's like, yeah, we both have no privilege in that sense.
Mm.
Bond, and it's this wonderful thing, you know. But well, I completely forgot how I got there. I was making some kind of point.
Policies for when there's policies for trans
Oh,
folks that
thank
can
you.
help other
Thank
people
you.
as well.
If you can make it safe for a trans person, you know, like let's say if you can make it safe for a Black trans person, we are going to be safe for everyone else too. So generally making it safe for trans people is going to cover an incredible umbrella of safety. The types of issues we face are types of issues that everyone faces, it turns out, in their own way, as society puts us in little boxes and asks us to da da da. So I think that it's just like, you know, unfortunately right now, you know, politically being trans has become the issue, right? This is we are the focal point of the attack on the right. We are the number one thing that the left is going to give up in order to win the vote. You know, like if anything's going to happen, abandon the trans rights and Biden win over Trump. As a
Mm.
trans person, almost for that. No, I'm not. But it's complicated. It's weird. And why we're the third rail
Mm.
is very frustrating. But I
Yeah.
think it's good for companies to understand that we are the third rail. It does suck a lot of time that we're the third rail. You never know when you're going to walk out and go to this grocery store and it's going to trigger a sociopath.
Mm-hmm.
And so having supportive and safe places for work is just incredibly important. And I think companies that are brave enough not only to hire, but promote trans people will make everyone else in their company feel good. They will feel safer. They'll say, look, trans person got a promotion.
Mm.
And so I do think that there's just tremendous unconscious bias that works against us, for sure. And well, anyway, I'll pause. You ask one question, and then I never let you ask another question. So,
Well, on
I'm the
that
worst.
topic of creating policies that are helpful for trans folks and that could be helpful for other people, could you speak to some of these specific policies or practices that you think are essential for companies to implement in order to support their trans employees, whether they are working in a dispersed way or an in-person way?
Yeah. There's some very simple ones that you'd be shocked what it means to us. So, putting pronouns on your signature or when you log into a meeting, we just don't know who's going to be transphobic. It's really complicated. Gay men can be so transphobic.
Mm-hmm.
You know, liberal women can be incredibly transphobic. And to make shit complicated, super right-wing Trump MAGA conservative musclehead can be the sweetheart you didn't expect. Who the fuck knew? It's going to be adorable with you. And you were
Mm.
braced for the worst.
Mm.
And then it was like the Soul Cycle instructor who's gay, and you thought that was going to be wonderful and won't stop dead naming you, and turns out to be trans and thinks any trans feminine person is just actually a gay guy. The world is super complicated. So we appreciate, I'm positive I can speak in the we form, we appreciate explicit, clear signals of safety. And if
Mm.
you put your pronoun, it doesn't mean like, oh, people can't tell that I'm a he, him. It means that I'm open to this topic. I'm not going to be an
Mm.
asshole about this topic. And it's a very simple way to send that signal. As leaders in the company, there's a few days that happen. And International Day of Trans Visibility, just like Pride Month in general. The company recognizing that in a company-wide email to say, hey, do you know what today is? We support all of you. There might be some of us in the company. People are like, there's no trans people in this company. Like
Right.
the truth is that, for example, when I went to high school in South Eugene High School in Oregon, there were no trans people, they said.
Mm.
I mean, I was there, but if you asked me if I was trans, I was in the closet 100%. So companies have more people. There are so many more trans people in the closet than anyone has any idea. And those people who are in the closet have a chance of coming out and making their life significantly better. But if they're never given any sign that actively signals that it will be safe, then fear paralyzes us because we're given
Mm.
it enough reasons why. When I was little, I learned to stay in the closet. I saw how people treated me when they saw that. And I thought that was the only way I could have the life I wanted was in the
Mm.
closet.
Mm.
I believe when I came out since then, I worked at AOL. Two people who, as a trans person, my transdar, radar, gaydar, didn't go off. I didn't know. They're
Mm.
so cute. I love both of them so much. No one would have said that in my department or my team there's a trans person. They would have said, I work with, and I don't want to dead name them, but they would never have thought that. So you might be working with trans people and you didn't even know it. And
Mm-hmm.
so saying Happy Trans Day of Visibility to all of your families extended, and we want to recognize the day, and even using language like, and some of you might be, that is very, very wonderful signal to safety.
Mm.
When my wife and I talk about my own journey, we both wish that I had come out to her earlier. And we both regret that there was like about 100 different times that I tiptoed towards there, and she was oblivious to it.
Mm.
So she didn't send the right supporting signal early enough for me to feel safer to do it earlier. And that is not a casting blame on her at all in any way. She's totally amazing and has been so supportive. It's just to emphasize just how scary it is, because
Hmm.
we lose family when we come out. Almost impossible to not lose at least one family member by coming
Mm.
out as trans. And we fear losing jobs. And so I know we only have a few minutes. I want to leave with something, since I cried and I'm depressing everyone with like, oh, all of our vulnerabilities. I want for anyone trans out there and for all of our queer people, I want to talk about our superpower.
Mm.
Our greatest strength is our greatest weakness. And so us being trans is our greatest strength. And that weakness is that society perceives us as depressed and suicidal. And that, more than anything, is what prevents our success. And so, queer people, not just trans people, we're fun. We're fucking fun. We know how to have fun more, and we know how to make something boring fun. We know how to get
Hmm.
life right. We can choose to be generous with that or stingy. So we can do that only with other queer people, where we can feel safe with them. What I have found out is that if you take bravery as a queer person and turn it into superpower, there are so many allies whose dream is to have a super queer friend who is so fun and lets them in on everything.
Yeah.
And when you share that and you allow someone who's straight to not have to be queer to be part of it, then you go from people being scared of working with you to people wanting to work with you, hoping you show up to the meeting. It's more fun. We can turn it into a superpower. That's the secret success between super successful queer people. We don't
Mm.
have to hide it. We don't have to closet it. We don't have to be ashamed of it. We don't have to share it. We don't have to be generous with it. But when we can and keep our mojo intact, we can make money and we can be successful.
I love that. It's true. It's so true. And I can completely vouch for that. Like my friends and allies that I've let in to some of the tea and they're like, "Oh, what?" And I'm like,
You
I
get to
know.
have fun.
They
It's
love it.
nice. Let them have fun with you and make some money from
Exactly.
it. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, this has been so delightful. Thank you so much for opening up in such a beautiful, radical, vulnerable way. I really appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hunter. I
And
really appreciate it. Much love to everyone. Happy Pride.
happy Pride. And what's the best way for folks to stay connected with you?
Oh geez. LinkedIn, but I'm terrible. God, oh, another LinkedIn notification. Don't take it personally. I'll get there one day. Andrea at RebelMouse.com is another way. I'll look for my email. I get behind. And I guess I hate Elon Musk so much that you can't. I'm not going to be on Twitter, so try Threads, where I am mediocrely about all of
Yeah.
it. Maybe email. Thank you
Well,
so much, Hunter. Happy
thank
Pride,
you.
everyone.
Take care now. Thank you.